Beneath the grandeur of the Ottoman Empire, the domes of Istanbul, the silks of Topkapi Palace, there was a darker, unspoken world. A world not of viziers or sultans, but of boys, young, foreign, and powerless, torn from their homelands, stripped of their names, and reshaped behind velvet curtains. If you think the harem was only a place of women, think again. These were the kuchekler, boys chosen for their beauty, made to dance, entertain, and submit. Trapped in a palace of gold where every smile masked survival, every movement a performance. Some were favored, others forgotten, but none of them were free. And if you think their story ends with servitude, you haven't heard the most horrifying parts yet. If you're drawn to the hidden, brutal truths buried in history's most powerful empires, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. These are the stories they hoped would never be told. Now let's dive in this dark lore. The Ottoman harem wasn't merely a collection of veiled women and whispered intrigues. It was a political machine, and at its center sat the Sultan, absolute ruler of an empire spanning 3 continents. But behind the gold-leaf doors of Topkapi Palace, power wasn't just asserted through war or treaties, it was also exercised through bodies. While the female concubines of the harem were known to the world, the existence of male concubines, kuchekler and icholans, was an open secret whispered only in elite circles. These boys were handpicked for their androgynous beauty and grace, often purchased or taken as tribute from conquered territories. Some were as young as 10. They were educated, trained to dance, sing, play instruments, and most of all, please. To the outside world, they were court entertainers. To the inner sanctum, they were something else entirely. The Sultan's court was a paradox, fiercely Islamic, yet indulgent in practices forbidden by its own doctrine. Scholars rationalized it, officials ignored it. And within this hypocrisy, the boys endured. Paraded at lavish banquets, made to perform in women's clothing, they walked a delicate line between favored plaything and disposable object. For some, catching the Sultan's eye meant survival, privilege, protection, even affection. For others, it was the start of something much more dangerous. Because when desire mingles with absolute power, mercy becomes a luxury. By all appearances, the life of an icholan or kuchek seemed enviable. They wore silk robes embroidered with gold, dined on sweet sherbet and spiced lamb, and slept in marble chambers perfumed with rose water. But behind the silks and silver lay shackles, not of iron, but of expectation and fear. These boys were slaves, trained from childhood to serve and seduce. The court molded them with precision. They learned court etiquette, poetry, music, and the art of anticipation. Their survival often hinged on reading a sultan's mood before he even spoke. A single misstep could mean exile or death. Their bodies were not their own. Many were castrated to serve within the palace walls, a brutal procedure carried out without anesthesia or guarantee of survival. It stripped them of any future outside the palace, binding them permanently to a life of submission. But not all who served in the shadows remained voiceless. Some boys, favored, charming, and politically shrewd, rose to power. They became trusted advisors, spies, even kingmakers. Their proximity to the Sultan granted them influence no nobleman could challenge. Yet with power came danger. Rival concubines, viziers, or even other boys could plot their downfall. In a palace ruled by whispers, no alliance was safe. One day you could be sipping pomegranate wine beside the Sultan. The next, you might vanish without a trace, your name never spoken again. Power in the Ottoman palace didn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it hid behind kohl-lined eyes and a smile trained to seduce. Among the silken shadows of the Topkapi harem, love, real or feigned, was the most dangerous weapon of all. While women of the harem wielded quiet influence, the Sultan's male favorites walked an even narrower line. To be desired by the Sultan meant privilege, access to secrets, gifts of land, even political leverage. But desire was fickle, and jealousy lethal. A whispered promise, a longing glance, or an unsanctioned tryst could ignite deadly rivalries. The favored boy might find himself poisoned by a concubine, or framed for treason by a jealous vizier. Love here was not romance, it was calculation, survival, a mask worn to shield against the blades of court intrigue. And for those rare few who fell genuinely in love, perhaps with another boy, or a chamber musician, or even a noble's son, the danger doubled. Forbidden by law, punished by death, these private desires had to remain buried. But desire is not so easily silenced. There were stories of a sultan's favorite found weeping in the baths, mourning a love banished to the provinces, of coded letters passed in cushions, and of one boy whose beauty inspired a war between two pashas. In a world where affection could shift empires, love was both a crown and a noose, and those who dared feel it too deeply rarely lived long enough to regret it. In the Ottoman court, nothing faded faster than favor. One day you were the sultan's moonlight, cloaked in jewels, adored in whispers, and the next, a shadow no one dared acknowledge. For many male concubines, the fall came quietly. A younger, more beautiful boy arrived. The sultan's affections shifted, the silks disappeared. The private chambers once theirs were handed to another. And worse, where once there were guards to protect them, now there were guards to watch them. But for others, the end came brutally. A concubine who grew too confident, who overheard too much, who dared influence court decisions, might be accused of espionage or seduction, or worse, witchcraft. Accusations required no proof. A rumor could be a death sentence. Some were exiled to distant provinces under false titles. Others were found floating in the Bosphorus, a silk cord still tight around their neck. In the quiet of the night, the palace erased them. No ceremony, no grave, no name in the record. There was no retirement for favorites, no gentle descent, only silence, shame, and the creeping dread of being forgotten. Because in a court where love was currency and beauty a weapon, to lose either was to lose your worth entirely. And the most painful fall of all, to still be alive, still breathing, while knowing you once held the Sultan's heart in your hands, and now you are nothing. Their names were rarely recorded, their stories whispered if told at all. But the male concubines of the Ottoman Empire left behind a legacy that still lingers in the shadows of Topkapi Palace. These were not just playthings of the court, they were pawns, confidants, spies, and at times silent power brokers. They navigated a world built on contradictions, where they were worshipped and silenced, adorned and imprisoned, loved and destroyed. Their existence challenges everything we think we know about gender, power, and control in imperial history. Today, historians are beginning to peel back the layers of secrecy, hidden in the footnotes of court records, obscure poetry, and guarded oral traditions are fragments of their voices. Fragments that reveal a dark truth, that in a world ruled by absolute power, even beauty and desire became weapons of survival. And perhaps the most chilling legacy of all, the systems that consume them, the manipulation, the exploitation, the silencing of those deemed less than, haven't disappeared. They've merely changed form. The story of the Ottoman male concubines is more than a tale of forgotten lovers. It's a reminder that history is often written by those who held the quill, not those who suffered in silence. And sometimes it's in the silence where the loudest truths live. If you found this story as haunting and important as we did, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. We cover dark truths from across history, stories of power, silence, and survival that deserve to be remembered. Your voice helps us keep these forgotten stories alive. Thank you, and see you in the next episode of Dark Lore.